Scott Kegler, and I'm at UConnect 2011. I'm here today with Jennifer McEntire of Food Technologists.
Institute of Food
Technologists. And we're going to talk about food safety and traceability and how finding out where food is and where different events may happen, and also turns into financial advantages for those people that are transporting and selling.
Yes.
So let's start out with where your project started.
Sure. First, thanks for having me.
Sure.
In 2008, we, the Institute of Food Technologists, were asked by FDA to do a study of traceability. We have a contract with FDA. We are a science society of food scientists. My background is in food safety. And when FDA asked us to do this work on traceability, they asked us to look at the entire food system, start to finish.
Small task.
Yeah. Look at what other countries were doing, look at what technologies were out there, what's on the horizon, what other industries were doing, non-food industries, how they tracked and traced product. So it really was an overwhelming task. And FDA was looking at it from the public health perspective, having issues associated with outbreaks and being able to trace foods back. I quickly learned that a background in food safety is not the only type of expertise that's needed, that this is very much a supply chain issue. Right. And so we wound up, through the course of our task, talking to about 200 folks, 50 food companies, about more than a dozen technology companies, to try to put the pieces of this puzzle together and ultimately make some recommendations to FDA about what the industry needs to do, what the industry is currently doing, to improve tracking and tracing of their products and help inform FDA what the status of the industry is and make some recommendations to FDA of what they perhaps could do if they were in a position to issue some sort of guidance or advice to the industry.
So you took it from, I guess, from, if it's crops, everywhere from planting to harvesting to shipping to delivery to actual off-the-shelf to consumers, right?
Yes. The reasons that a food company would want to improve their traceability system are often not related to food safety, because companies don't think and shouldn't think that they're going to be the ones associated with an outbreak.
Right.
So that's not the motivation for the company. The motivation is efficiency, showing other market advantages, that they have a product that's more sustainable, that the consumer can feel more related to where this product actually came from. So there are other reasons that companies were interested in traceability. But recognizing, of course, that when there is an outbreak and when the regulators come and knock on the door and ask for records, you better be prepared.
Right. So are there technology solutions in place, or are they kind of homebrewed based on the company that needs them? Or?
Well, when we talked to companies, we found that many of them had their own systems and were very comfortable with their own systems. And when we asked companies about traceability, many would say that they had traceability. And my feeling is that traceability is not something that exists within the four walls of one company. It's a system-wide issue. And so then you would need to look to how these data are going to be shared between trading partners throughout the supply chain, not just the one up, one back, to have full visibility. There are technology solutions out there, commercially available. We're currently doing a study looking at how they work, how a few of them work, and whether or not they're interoperable. That, I think, is a key challenge at this point in time, is the continued development and evolution of standards, and how these data managers can make sure that they are not selling proprietary solutions. So we want to make sure that if a company chooses to use a third-party solution, that they don't have to buy into every single company that their supply chain partners are working with as well.
Sure. Being as that we're in an X12 kind of a conference, are those standards part of X12, or the documentation standards, or are they EDI, or are they just XML standards, or are there any standards?
I view this as happening in a couple of phases. The first is the identification of, from the food company's perspective, what data do they need to collect, regardless of standards, just where in my supply chain do I need to be capturing data? What do I need to capture? And that's a challenge at this point in time for a number of companies. So then obviously looking forward, then we need to say, well, how are you going to capture those data How are you going to share those data? And so there's absolutely development of standards in that direction, but I think the implementation and adoption of those standards is a bit down the line. We do see that industry should look at what their critical tracking events are. Where do they need to capture data? Where do things change? Whether it's the location of the product, the constituents of the product, if you're manufacturing or splitting or joining together. So where in the whole supply chain are things happening where you need to capture data? We call those critical tracking events.
All right, well, thanks so much, Jennifer.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much.
Coming in.